Glad that you're here on Saturday morning, and you were here at about 9:30, which is also amazing since we start at 10. So thank you for being early and on time. My name is Adam Henry, and I have the privilege of directing the Study Abroad office here at ASU. We've taken a lot of time. Our team that's here, by the way, our team are some are in the back, but you can see, except me, everyone today is wearing maroon or gray with maroon sleeves and a name tag. So if you have any questions for any of us throughout the day, please see one of them or one of our student staff as well. But we've taken a lot of time to prepare for today. And the goal of today is to make sure that you feel prepared before you engage globally. So it's a mission right now at ASU for more Sun Devils to become global Sun Devils. And the content of today, right after me, you're going to hear a lot about health and safety, which is super, super important to us. And to make sure that you know what to do if something occurs while you're abroad. And then throughout the afternoon, you're going to attend 2 workshops where you get to choose. You'll learn more about that. And again, prepare you and provide knowledge to help you be more successful. So I want to find out who is here today. And I'm going to do that by, first, let's honor those whose parents or parent were able to join us, are able to join us. So if you're a parent, let's just raise your hand. And let's give them a round of applause, right? I have 3 kids, my wife and I, and it's not easy. So parents do a lot of awesome work. So we're glad that you're here. And then from a student standpoint, how many of you are going abroad in academic year or the fall? Raise your hand. Awesome. And then I think everyone else should be summer, but let's just raise our hand if we're summer. Okay, wow. Yeah, we should see probably about 1,300 or so students go out this summer. And then I want to see by show of hands, or even if you're excited about it, like yelling, whatever you do to show your excitement, how many students are going to the Caribbean? Okay, that's amazing. No one going to the Dominican Republic? Actually, don't raise your hand, because now we knew that you knew that the Dominican Republic wasn't part of the trip. Okay, Central South America. Okay, good. We got some, awesome. Asia, how many going to Asia? Okay, excellent. And then we've got the large continent of Africa. Awesome, yeah, we got excitement over here, I like that. How about the Middle East? 1, 2, 3, 4. You got to connect. We're going to connect later today. And then the Americas, so Mexico, Canada, maybe anyone going to the U.S. or here, but, yes. We've got some programs that go to the U.S. Oceania, Fiji, Australia, New Zealand. Okay, these are the fun ones. So you need to connect in with them. Am I forgetting anyone? Oh my gosh, I did that on purpose. Europe. Okay, yeah, we know there's a lot of you. And then how many of you hope that St. Mary's beats U of A this afternoon? How many of you know that? We should all be like, yeah! You are, yes. Pitchforks up. Yes, we are excited. I know it's not very nice, but I had to throw it in, right? We can't let them look good. Okay, so the reason I'm here and the reason our team are here is because, for the most part, we've all had global experiences. And for the most part, they were connected to an academic experience. And so we're passionate about seeing more individuals have a global experience and gain a global perspective. The reason why I'm here is I was able to take time in high school and go abroad, and then in college I went abroad, and then my wife and I lived abroad. And there's a lot of things to learn to be successful. And so we've taken kind of all of that and put it into today's workshops that you're going to be able to attend. And then I would have to say that you are about to embark on probably, I won't even say probably, I'll say are embarking on the most amazing experience of your college years as you go abroad. And so it's a really exciting time for you. And again, we just hope that all that we're able to share today will support you in all of that. So with all of that, again, glad that you're here. I'd like to bring up 2 of our staff who were some of the masterminds behind of today. Kyle Rausch manages our faculty-directed programs. Some of you, a lot of you are going on those. And then Tony Bartolucci also manages some of our faculty-directed programs. So why don't we have them come on up, give them a round of applause. Yeah. And they're going to give you an overview of what's going to happen today. So thank you for your time.
All right, thanks, Adam, and welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining us today. Just going to go over some brief housekeeping items so you get an idea for the format of today. So basically, all of you should have received a program. Keep this because it's going to let you know where to go after the required health and safety session. Basically, we have 2 rounds of breakout sessions for you. We wanted to make sure we gave you the opportunity to choose what you want to learn during today. So you can take a look on the right side and see I think we have 10 different sessions for you to choose from. One thing to note is we do have an internship session we're doing for anyone going on a program where you will be doing an internship. We would really like you to please go to that session. You'll still have one round where you can choose another one. In addition, for our parents, we're offering a special parent session for you. We are going to make a change seeing how many of you are here today, and we will be holding that session in here for each round of the breakouts as opposed to the room listed in your program. So if you're a parent and you'd like to attend that, we invite you to join us in here. Let's see here. For the breakout rooms, we are limited by space. Certain rooms might be smaller than others, so we ask that if you arrive late to a session and it's full, please choose another one and come back to the second round for that session. Okay. One thing to note is that we will be providing the presentations in a Dropbox folder for you guys to access later, so if you can't attend a session of your choosing, you will still get those resources, all right? And then we have a wonderful resource room in Ventana directly behind you. If you haven't checked it out, we encourage you to do that. You'll actually have some dedicated time after the first round of breakouts. We have some refreshments in there. But we also have several partners, some campus partners, as well as some of our study abroad program providers. And some of you might be studying on those programs. So if you look on the back of your program, you'll see the partners that we have in attendance. Most of them should be in attendance today. And so you can go there and actually ask any questions you might have of those program providers. We also are doing door prizes. So when you checked in, you should have received a ticket. The more sessions you go to throughout the day, the more tickets you get, the greater chances you have to win. We are offering a $100 travel voucher through STA Travel. So if you haven't purchased your airfare yet, perhaps you could use that towards that. If you already purchased it, they said that it can be used towards something else. So future travel could be something that you save that for. But we have a variety of other travel-related prizes, so keep a hold on to those tickets, and then at the end of the day, in Ventana, the resource room, we'll actually have a drawing for those prizes. Last thing I wanted to make before I give it over to Tony to go over the specifics of the raffle and how that will work are the fact that if you need to use the restrooms, there are set in the north end of the building as well as the south. So I know I briefly mentioned about the raffle prizes, but I want Tony to explain because she'll be managing who's eligible and how that all works.
Sure. So if you haven't visited our resource room yet, we are going to have you head out through the room and you will be able to see the raffle prizes there. So we have over a dozen prizes that are great travel related items. So we have like a neck pillow, we have reusable bags, the travel voucher, electronic adapters or outlet adapters, and so many more things. So when you came in and checked in, you should have received a raffle ticket. We kept one side and you had the other. So for each session that you will be attending, you will get an additional raffle ticket. We are asking that this be limited to the students studying abroad. So if you are a parent, family member, or friend, you are not eligible to join the raffle, unfortunately. So we are going to be drawing the prizes in the resource room at the end of the day. So stay tuned for your name to be called. You have to be here to win. And finally, we unfortunately are not letting you win more than one prize apart from the grand prize with the airfare. So if you get your name called for the first few, that's your one option and you'll come on down to grab it. And then everybody has a chance for the final grand prize. Okay? Is everyone excited for it? Yeah, okay.
Thanks. And then one last thing, when you checked in, hopefully you had your ASU number or your SUNC card. If you did not make it by the check-in tables, just make sure you do that before you leave today so we can make sure that this task gets updated in your student account. And then it might take a couple of business days for us to update that, so don't freak out if you don't see it checked off on Monday, but we will make sure that gets checked off for you. And as I mentioned, we'll send you copies of the presentations today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our Assistant Director, Dan Hart, and we'll get started on our health and safety session. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. The enthusiasm level in this room is less than spectacular. So can we just pause for a second and recognize the fact that you all are about to go abroad? Can we celebrate this, please? Thank you. I heard it from the people going to Australia and Europe, but the rest of y'all were a little bit asleep. And I know you're not watching college basketball because you didn't react to Adam's prompt about the U of A hopefully losing today. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Dan Hart. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Safety and Engagement in the Study Abroad Office. I've been doing this for a long time. This is my 14th year here in the Study Abroad Office. Each year, this group of you keeps getting larger and larger, and it's really exciting to see. Parents, again, a special plug, thanks to you guys for being involved and for coming. I'll be doing the parent session, so there are more of you than we thought, so that's why we want to ask you to stick around in here for that session instead of going to the other room. But I've got about 40 to 45 minutes with you all. At least that's my plan. Sometimes I get a little sidetracked and make bad jokes, and it takes a little bit longer to get through, but my goal is to finish by 10:05 so you all can, or sorry, 11:05 so that you can go to the resource room. So basically, the whole gist of my presentation to you today is to talk about health, safety, security, risk matters, right? Certainly there are risks inherent in anything that we do. I get scared every time I try to cross Mill Avenue, for example. But we tend to minimize or overlook those risks, and a lot of times we or people around us, when we talk to them about the fact that we're going abroad, might hone in on maybe they think there's extra risk or it's unsafe to be outside the United States. Certainly, my opinion is that that's a myth. It is unsafe to be anywhere in the world. There are risks all around us. But certainly there are some risks unique to the study abroad context or to traveling abroad. So I want to work with you today to help you identify what some of those risks are, and then talk to you a little bit about some strategies, things that you can be doing between now and the time that you go abroad. In terms of kind of my job and what we do in the Study Abroad Office, that's this whole first section. The rest of the slides don't have this much text on them, just so you know. Basically, my job is to stay current on things that are happening around the world, so that we, as a team, can better prepare you to study abroad, so that we, as a team, can intervene should something go wrong while you are abroad. And the way that I stay abreast is by monitoring a lot of information that you all have access to that I'll plug for you throughout the day, things like the U.S. State Department, news sites like the Associated Press, etc. But then we also at ASU have access to a lot of resources that you all, as members of the general public, don't have. We have contracts with security and intelligence companies that kind of feed us information and analysis of world events, so that we can then pass that on to you all. And we certainly use that to make decisions on where we go with our study abroad programs. So other things that we do, we are part of the Overseas Security Advisory Council, which is an arm of the U.S. Department of State. Presuming they maintain their funding, they will continue to provide very valuable resource to the higher education community and to various other industries in the U.S. But I sit on their academia working group, which basically is me and a bunch of other people like me that work at universities that send students abroad. And we get to talk to their security analysts. In fact, I talked to one 2 days ago about Israel and the West Bank, which was a very interesting conversation. I'm also part of a consortium called PULSE. It's not an acronym, although they spell it with all caps for some reason. This is basically, 80 or so people who do what I do, and that is focus full-time on international health, safety, and security matters. And so we all collaborate all the time when there's something happening around the world. What are you doing about it? What's your university's take on this situation? What are you advising your students, et cetera? So the point in sharing all of this with y'all is just to really hopefully drive home the point that we got it. We're watching, we're paying attention, we're taking the pulse of the field, and we're acting in accordance with best practices in our field. So for whatever that's worth, these are the things that we're doing. I'll come back to this insurance policy bullet point a little bit later. So what can you do? Well, pay attention for the next 35 or so minutes. We'll give you a lot of tips, but really, this is your experience. You'll be, most of you, with other ASU students. Some of you will be the only ASU student on your program. Mom and dad won't be with you. Your study abroad advisor won't be with you. Your academic advisor won't be with you. Your roommates, your fraternity brothers, sorority sisters, not going to be with you. You were there. This is your responsibility. You're going to learn a lot through this experience. But remember that this is your experience. And remember, as adults, I think everyone in the room, I believe, is over 18. Take responsibility, do some research. We'll talk to you about some of the things that we want you to research, but really, I want to empower you with some resources and with some advice so that you can go out and fish for yourself and kind of personalize all of this. All right. So here's the structure of the presentation, what we want you to do now, what's maybe a little bit less pressing before you leave, and then some tips on things to do and not do while you're abroad. So let's just get right to it. These are the three things I'm going to talk about here: ASU Student Health Questionnaire, Travel Medicine Clinic, and this theme of research is going to keep popping up throughout the presentation. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. Each of you inside your online study abroad application has an ASU Student Health Questionnaire. Probably most of you have already completed it. It's very short. The reason we have that in place is to give you an opportunity to share with us anything you want us to know about your health status, your medical status. For example, if you have a severe allergy to peanuts, it would probably be a good idea to tell the people who are responsible for feeding you on your program so that we don't feed you a bag of peanuts, for example. Obvious example, this information is not shared with anyone outside of those responsible for your program. So it is confidential in our system, but we will share with those who need to know. If you have I've already given an example. So visit the ASU Travel Medicine Clinic. Some of you, many of you, will be expected to go to the ASU Travel Clinic because of the location of your program. So if your program is in a location that the university feels warrants a visit with a travel specialist because of a history of endemic diseases in those countries, or because there are some required vaccines that we want to make sure you know about, or because there's a dramatically different healthcare system or a general lack of English-speaking, Western-trained medical providers, for example. We want to send you to the travel clinic so that you can be armed with more advice. We don't send you to the travel clinic to get a physical. We don't make anyone get any shots. We send you there so that you can get information about the places you're going. And if you do have any pre-existing health issues, they can advise you on managing those health issues within those places that you're traveling. So they will talk to you about how to access the healthcare system. They will talk to you about any required or recommended immunizations. They'll talk to you about traveling with prescriptions. They'll talk to you about, they'll give you an enormous PDF, basically, with information about local emergency services. What's the equivalent of 911? And if you don't know already, it's almost certainly not 911. So if you take away nothing else from today, know that 911 is not a universal emergency service. One of the resources you can use to prepare yourself, if you haven't already, studentsabroad.state.gov. This is a special website on the State Department website for study abroad students. Imagine that. check it out. There's a lot of information. Some of that information I've listed out here. The things that you should be looking into. If anybody uses maintenance medications of any kind, can you travel with that? If so, how should you carry it? Is it available in your host country? Is it illegal in your host country? That's sometimes the case. About driving abroad, road safety is basically the single greatest risk for U.S. citizens traveling abroad. So my advice is don't drive abroad. Let other people who are qualified to drive you abroad. What are the risks unique to your location? Where's the closest hospital to where you're staying, etc. If you are a member of the LGBT community, are there any particular risks for you in the place that you're going? What do you need to know about the societal norms there or the laws there? There certainly are countries in the world where same-sex consensual relationships are illegal, and other places where, if not illegal, are taboo. So we want you to be aware. Do you require a visa? I put this one in maroon. Sorry, I'm just noticing this seizure-inducing stutter over here. I don't know that we can fix that, so if it's bothering you, just divert your eyes or look over at the screen if you can. Sorry about that. Do you require a visa? So we've been getting a lot of questions about this lately. There's been some news out of the United States about changes in our immigration regulations, including banning immigration from certain countries. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. You're probably familiar with the fact that some of those policies, some of that executive order has been blocked by a judge in Hawaii. We'll see how that plays out. None of you, I believe, are a citizen of one of those 6 countries that are highlighted in the travel ban. But we get a lot of questions from students about this question of a visa because there's chatter now in the media, rightfully so, that a number of other countries around the world, those making the biggest splash is the European Union, may make it harder for U.S. citizens to travel to those places as retribution for the stance that we're taking on immigration into our country. This is the way of the world. We make it harder for you to come here. You will certainly make it harder for us to go there. Now, big article, it's gotten a lot of press. We've had a lot of students and parents ask us about the European Union, who recently, they passed a non-binding decision, basically, that the European Union member states should implement visa requirements for U.S. citizens traveling to Europe for a short time. There's currently a visa waiver program, but the U.S. still does require visas from certain European Union member states, and this was basically, from what I can tell, this is basically a symbolic gesture, and I don't anticipate that any European countries are going to implement new visa requirements for U.S. citizens. Our tourist dollar is simply too big, and the process to go through those changes is too lengthy. It's not likely to impact you. So I want to put that out there for your consideration, but I also want to remind you that ultimately it is your responsibility to determine if you require a visa to go and enter the country that you're going to study in. We will, however, be monitoring the situation because it is an emerging issue, and if we see that there are changes to immigration requirements, we'll let you know. But the other basic point I want to make is a visa is not an excuse, or a visa process is not an excuse to deny people entry or to prevent Americans from traveling. It's basically a tit-for-tat retribution against our government's policies. And that what that means is, if you look today and you're going to France and it says you don't need a visa, and then 2 weeks from now France decides to implement a new visa requirement, you'll have forms to fill out and a fee to pay, but it shouldn't disrupt your life in any significant way. So people have been concerned about it. I just want to put that out there for whatever that's worth. And I should say, I would love to take questions, but I want to make sure that we get through everything. So if things do emerge along the way, hopefully we'll have time at the end. Otherwise, I'll be in here for a parent session. I'll be here for the rest of the day. So if you do have questions about that, we can talk. Traveling with prescriptions. I'm not going to ask all of you who has a prescription medication, but if you do, I hope that you will take this to heart. Some of the more difficult situations that our students find themselves in when they're abroad come about when they don't have access to the medication that they rely on. So oftentimes this is medication that treat mental health issues of some kind, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, sometimes ADHD meds are not available. My main point here is be aware if you do have medication that it's not carried properly, you may not be allowed to bring it into your country. So make sure you know how to carry it. Some tips here on this slide. The consulate or embassy of the country you're going to is another good place to check this information. The CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in the US, is another good place to check for this information. But know that you may not have your medication that you need. So one possibility is it's confiscated at the border. That's really unlikely to happen. What may be more likely is your medication is lost or stolen. Or you don't travel with enough and you need to refill it. The position we don't want you to find yourselves in is to be in a place where you need to fill your prescription and you can't because that drug is not available in your country, or because that drug is restricted or illegal in your country. This is a case with a lot of opiates, for example, that are commonly prescribed in the United States, and one of the most difficult emergencies I've had to resolve, or among the most, have been medical evacuations due to mental health crises that came about because students had a plan, or they thought they had a plan, and that sort of fell apart because 2 of the 3 drugs they need, they can't have in that country. So do your research. There is information also on the Study Abroad Office website, including a table. I don't expect that y'all can read this, but on the website there's this table listing a lot of the commonly prescribed drugs in the US, which are often restricted or illegal in various foreign countries. So common ones on here: Vyvanse, Adderall, Xanax, Vicodin, etc. And just to put it out there, because we've had some wise guys in the past, medical marijuana is not a universal thing. It may be acceptable here in many states in the United States, including our own, but don't. I think you know better, but don't assume that that extends to you anywhere outside of the state of Arizona. So I plugged CDC website a little bit already and travel.state.gov already. These will keep coming up because they are very valuable resources. On top here, ASU policies. Remember, you're ASU students. You're on ASU sponsored activities. You're subject to the ABOR Student Code of Conduct. So if you haven't read that, which I'm sure you haven't, go ahead and have a read. Make sure you understand what ASU policies are. All right. What are we doing on time? 10:30. Perfect. Okay, so more things pre-departure along the way, right? I covered some of the things that I think are more imminent, more urgent for you to look into. These are some of the other things that we want you to do before you leave. Register with the U.S. State Department. This is something that we very much want all of you to do. It's a very easy online process. You can do it on your smartphone right now. I won't get upset if you're doing that while I'm talking. Although if you do turn on the NCAA tournament, I would appreciate some scoring updates every few minutes. I want to know what's going on in the games. Smart Traveler Enrollment Program is what you would be registering in. Basically, this is a mechanism for you to notify the State Department where you are and when you will be there, so that they can help you in case of a crisis, so that they can help your family get in touch with you in case of a crisis back home. This also enables them to communicate with you when maybe there's not a crisis, but there's some happening in the city that you need to be aware of. There's a public transportation strike, or an air traffic controller strike, or a political demonstration that you should avoid. This is part of making you a more informed traveler, so please take a few minutes at your convenience and register with the State Department. This has been a very useful service for ASU students. So this is my insurance slide. So In my opening slide, I mentioned there was a bullet point that ASU provides a comprehensive insurance policy, and that's true for almost all of you in this room. In some cases, we defer to our partners' insurance policies. CIEE, IPSA Butler, ISA, Semester at Sea, and USAC participants will be covered by an insurance policy that they have procured for you. All the rest of y'all, faculty-directed program participants, exchange students, partnership program students on any other programs will be covered by ASU's insurance policy. The partners' policies are all comparable to, or in some cases have better benefits than the university's policy, which is why we've deferred to them. So at a minimum, what you can expect is to have medical insurance coverage. You should also expect for that insurance coverage to include things like a medical evacuation benefit. I mentioned that before, but there's also coverage to evacuate in cases of natural disaster or political crisis. There are also many other resources that these insurance companies provide to you. I'm not going to talk about them because there's so many different providers at play in the room, but I want you to do some research. When you get that information, if you are covered by ASU's policy through GeoBlue, there's a resource item in your online application where you can view the full policy details. It's also on our website, on our public website, so you can find it there. Know what's covered. But dig a little bit deeper than that, because you may find, as with GeoBlue, there are a lot of online resources that are helpful. You can use their website to research various health issues and safety issues in country. You can use their websites to identify medical providers in advance. You can use their website to search for prescriptions abroad. So if you do have Adderall and you're going to Italy and you want to know if it's available in Italy, you can use a tool on their website to do that. Medical translation tools. I have an allergy to peanuts and I'm going to the Czech Republic and I don't know how to say, I don't speak Czech. There's a little function where you can push a little button on an app and say, I'm allergic to peanuts in Czech. It's pretty nifty. So it's more than what you might expect from a insurance policy. It's a good recipe. That's okay. Your policy won't cover everything. ASU's policy, and I believe all of the other policies that I've referenced, exclude activities that you might want to enjoy while you're abroad. I'm not here to tell you not to do those things, but you do need to know if activities you're undertaking are not covered by insurance. That's probably because it's exceedingly risky, and just know, if you go skydiving, well, if you go to skydiving and there's an accident, you're kind of screwed either way. But say scuba diving, you know, if there's an injury or something like that related to one of these activities, your insurance policy is not going to cover it. So just be aware. Arriving early or staying after. So the insurance coverage provided by your program will cover you for the duration of your program. Many people certainly like to travel in advance or travel after their program. Just know that your policy isn't covered. We're recommending GeoBlue Travel Insurance. It's the same company that provides ASU's insurance policy as a good product to go and shop for. But just as an FYI, it's probably not personal property insurance either. So if you do have questions about should you bring your laptop or some other expensive appliance or technology, good to talk to your program directors or your international coordinator about that. If you don't need a laptop, don't bring it. It's a liability. Laptops get stolen and lost a lot. Prepare your documents. Okay, so you've all been asked, I think, already to upload a copy of your passport to your study abroad application. That's if your passport is lost or stolen while you're abroad, it's much easier to replace when you do have a photocopy. So that will be available to you in your online application for the length of your program if you need it. But I think you should make photocopies of these things that are listed on the screen and keep them separate from the original copies of those things. If they're lost or stolen, any of these things, again, it's much easier to access replacements, for example, if you have those copies on hand. Maybe a good idea to leave copies of those back home as well in case you need them. This last bullet point, consider removing unnecessary data from your phone. This is just in reference to another current topic. Some of you may have seen news articles about U.S. citizens or permanent residents, people who are legally allowed to enter the United States getting kind of held up at immigration, and their phones being retained and searched. I don't know if you've heard of this. I think the most famous case was Muhammad Ali Jr., who got detained twice upon entry into the United States. Of course, he's a United States citizen. Question I'm getting is, do they have the right to do that? And basically the answer is yes. U.S. Customs and Border Protection are the ones that kind of set the policy for these things. And yes, they've always had the right to search your possessions should they determine they need to. And that does include your mobile devices. So do you have the right to refuse that? Kind of, yes, you do. But I think after doing so, what you might anticipate is your life being a little difficult for the next several hours. They will probably detain you. They can't detain you forever, but they could. So they could detain you. They couldn't detain you forever. They could detain you. I'm assuming that's why you're wrong. So just to clarify. So my point here is, if there's private information on your phone that you don't want someone seeing, even though they're not legally allowed to do anything with that information except to keep a copy of it, in case they find you done something illegal upon reentry and they need to use that for prosecution or something, they're only allowed to basically take a copy of that, thumb through it, look for stuff. But if you're concerned about that, or if you're concerned that your phone that you might be bringing with you, your brand new iPhone, might get lost or stolen, you might want to consider removing some of the unnecessary apps, your banking app, perhaps. Limit the number of contacts that are in your phone, for example. Just want to put it out there in case it comes up for anyone. I don't know that any of y'all are doing research that's going to have, which would put some particularly confidential data on your laptop, for example, but just to put it out there, if you are questioned when you re-enter the United States, be polite, answer their questions. You should expect for them to treat you with respect and with dignity as well. But they do random checks now, more than they have in the past. So it could happen. Be cooperative. My advice is unlock your phone for them so they can thumb through it and see that you don't have something suspicious and send you on your merry way, rather than standing your ground and trying to protect the privacy of your phone, because they'll get it if they need it. So just to put that out there. It's good times these days in the United States. Local phone numbers. These are things that we do want you to have on your phone. If you're getting a burner phone or a phone that you're just going to use while you're abroad, make sure you make a note of these things so you can put them in your phone. ASU's 24/7 emergency number, 480-965-3456. We can talk more about that in a little bit, but that is ASU Police Dispatch, which means the phone is answered 24/7, which means you could, if you can figure out how to do so, you can call them collect from wherever you are, so you don't have to pay for the call. They answer the phone 24/7, and then they put you on hold and they call me at 2 o'clock in the morning, and if for some reason I don't answer the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning, they call Dr. Henry, who was up here before me at 2 o'clock in the morning, and if he doesn't answer, they call Kyle Roush, who was also up here before me, and if he doesn't answer, they call the provost's office, and if it gets to the provost's office, my job is in jeopardy. So so I want to assure you that if you do need us in an emergency, make sure you have that number handy. Most things that we find out about do come to us during the workday, but it's available. Know your insurance provider's phone number. GeoBlue, I think, is the majority of y'all in this room. Phone number is here. Again, we'll send you these documents so that you'll have this information. And Overseas Citizen Services. This is the U.S. State Department, basically. These are the people who can help you in a crisis. All right. Big themes. Do your research. Look at the State Department website. Look at the CDC website. Do a check on your own health, safety, and well-being, and be upfront about those issues. Basically the gist of what we've covered so far. Biggest theme, do your research, your experience, your grown-ups. Yes, mom and dad. They are grown-ups. At least as far as the law is concerned. Okay. Sorry, students. I didn't mean to put you down. Way more of you than there are parents. Okay, while you're abroad, you're going to have an awesome experience. I have no doubt about that. You will have ups and downs. You will have challenges. You will have successes. You will have stories to tell for the rest of your lives. You will make friends that will be close to you for the rest of your lives. But bad things can happen. And so the next section here is to talk to you a little bit about maybe what some of those things might be and how you might avoid them. So let's just get into it. Staying safe abroad. So you're going to countries where laws are different from the United States. The same protections that you have in the United States don't necessarily apply to you in the country where you will be living for some period of time. So it behooves you to figure out what the laws are. If you are someone that likes to, well, I'm not going to make that example because I don't want to promote what I was just going to say. So let's just say be aware of the laws. Well, I'll go back to my medical marijuana example, right? So if you're somebody that likes to smoke pot because it appears a medical condition, first of all, you're not allowed to do that because it's illegal where you're going. But second of all, you should know what the consequences are of violating that law. What does it mean to be detained in Italy? You heard of Amanda Knox? Don't be Amanda Knox. If you don't know who Amanda Knox is, Google it and you'll get it. Use common sense while abroad. This is one of the major lessons I'm hoping to convey to you today. Pretty obvious, right? You've had many years of your life to develop your own common sense. Remember that. Don't let YOLO take over, or FOMO, or other things that when I say it, I sound old. Don't let those things take over and cloud your judgment. When I studied abroad, I heard from everybody that I hung out with, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Or, when else am I going to have an opportunity to jump off this cliff? Or whatever it is. Some of these things will be obvious, right? Okay, yes, I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. But some of the decisions you make or some of the things that you might do could put you at an unnecessary risk. And I want you to remember that where you're going is a foreign environment to you. Your routine, if you do go and, say, drink in Tempe, you've got the places that you're used to going, you know how to get home. If you need to, you know the safe path to follow, you know who to call if there's somebody sketchy following you. You don't have those landmarks, those guideposts when you're abroad. This is a different environment. You know what the social cues are here in the United States. You may not be as familiar with what those social cues are abroad. You may not have any experience with someone buying you a drink here, and then it happens abroad. And sure, well, bad things can happen. So don't accept drinks from strangers unless you want to get a drug dropped in your drink. That happens 3 to 5 times a year. ASU students abroad think they've been drugged while drinking. Keep that in mind. Not a prohibition against you consuming alcohol while you're abroad if you're legal to do so. There are restrictions to that. And y'all have seen, or if you haven't, it is in your application. There's a drug and alcohol statement of safety responsibilities in your online application. So have a read. You should expect that you can't have alcohol in your program housing. You should expect that you can't consume alcohol during program activities. But at night, you guys are on your own. And I don't think any of us who work and study abroad are naive to the things that students do when they go out on the town. And that's all good. But be smart. Don't leave your friends alone. You go out with other people. And if you go out with other people, go home with those same people. When you get separated, that's when bad stuff happens. Know what is appropriate alcohol consumption. Here, we've been brought up to learn that you're going to drink fast, as much as I can, because the object is the end goal, intoxication. I want to be fall down drunk. That's like the ideal of our drinking culture in the United States. Well, in many other places in the world, in fact, I would venture to say almost every other country in the world, that will have you sticking out like a sore thumb. Because the Australians, for example, who we think are all drunks, or the Brits, they spend a lot of time at a pub, but maybe they're there for 5 hours drinking with their friends, and their purpose in doing so is to socialize for 5 hours. It's not the end game of getting drunk. So when Americans go out and we do our thing, if there are people out there who want to do harm, they know this about us. They know that we like to go to the American pub or the club that the promoters are all out handing us flyers about every day. There's a whole industry built up around this, and basically what they're doing is bringing all of these Americans together to one place to get drunk so that all of the bad people who want to take advantage will come to those places. So just be aware. Just be aware and be smart and use common sense. If you wouldn't allow yourself to just leave me here. I'll be fine here on this bench in this park. I know how to get home. Don't do that. Don't let your friend do that. Take care of each other, please. All right, that's enough lecturing on that. How much time do we have? 10:48. All right, we got enough time. Any SNL fans in the room? All right, I'm going to sort of lighten things up a little bit for a minute. So this is a favorite in the study abroad office. This is a satire. I'll let you figure it out for yourself, but we can talk about it. I probably won't let the whole thing play because it's not necessary for you to get the point. But here we are in Barcelona.
We Americans are just locked into our consumer. Look, what? That guy over there keeps checking you out. The one over there? No, he's not. Yeah, he is. Maybe it's because you've been staring at him during this whole meal. What? I have not. I've just been enjoying my wine. Yeah, right. Oh, guess what? He's coming over here. Now. Hi.
America.
I'm Danielle. This is Lisa. We're from Chicago.
You have beautiful eyes.
Oh, thank you.
I am Martin. I would like to invite you both to come with me to Seville for the weekend.
Wait, where?
To Seville. Have a dinner there. We leave in 1 hour.
What's in Sevilla?
There is a fountain. It is radiant. It inspires me. You will love it.
So you want us to just drop everything and come with you to Sevilla?
Why not? We spend the weekend. We eat well. We drink good wine. We make love. And then I will kill you.
I'm sorry, what?
I will kill you. This is what I do. I take women to my home, we eat well, we drink good wine, we make love, and then I kill them. With, poison.
Really? No, we don't think so.
Why not? Life is dull, life is full of pain, life is short. Shorter than me. This is a chance for something special.
Oh.
I have a car ready to take us to Sevilla at 6:03, going there and one coming back, because by then I will have killed you. See, come on.
Whoa. Weird, huh? Are you serious about killing us? I don't know. Maybe. What? You're not actually thinking about going with them. Oh, come on. Why not? We are in Spain. it. That's not the point.
All right. I'll leave you hanging. If you want to go find out more, you can Google Martine Jude Law Saturday Night Live skit, and you'll find it. All right. Obviously, this is silly and ridiculous, but it's satire, right? This is not likely a situation any of you will encounter. However, it does illustrate some common pitfalls that we as U.S. Americans who maybe haven't been abroad before or haven't been to this location before might fall into. They go on and deliberate about what to do, and you can kind of watch it from there. But I guess the point I want to make is you might find yourself in this situation. You can reverse the roles, and Jude can be a female, and these two alleged, potential victims could be males. That also happens. Don't kid yourself if you think this kind of a scenario is a problem just for women. It's not. What usually happens, though, is Jude Law, Martine, is not so honest, right? He charms you because he's cute and he speaks with an accent and he's from here and he knows people, and now I can make a connection. And then one friend says, well, screw this, I'm leaving. And she says, well, I'm going to stay. And now bad things are going to happen. So this is a ridiculous situation, but the gist of this happens a lot to U.S. students overseas. So I don't tried to make light of it because I don't want to unnecessarily alarm you, but I do need you all to be aware of your surroundings, beware of situations like this, and be cautious. If you find yourself in an encounter that feels wrong, do something about it. Obviously, you're not going to encounter this exact situation. If you do, I'd appreciate knowing about it, because I'll video you for the next time. But just be smart. Pretty much already covered this here, but oh, sorry, there's a logo blocking the line there. But so last year, there were a little more than 90 incidents reported to the Study Abroad office. These are 90 situations that Study Abroad participants encountered, from illness, which is certainly the most common, to medical evacuation, and everything in between. When we're talking about injuries, which, if something is to befall you while you're abroad, most likely it's going to be you're going to get sick or you'll hurt yourself. You'll have a minor injury. That's probably the worst thing that will happen to you, particularly if you kind of follow some of the other advice that we've been sharing today. But I can tell you that almost every problematic incident that we've had has involved alcohol. It's just the reality, which is why I stand up here and I lecture you like an old man who's prude, and tell you not to do this. I'm not naive. I'm not expecting you to remember this speech. Remember that guy. And I want to be true to my word to that random dude that was standing in front of me lecturing me on responsible alcohol consumption. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but if nothing else, I want a seed to be planted in your head that if you do consume alcohol and you're irresponsible about doing so, and your friends around you are irresponsible about doing so, chances are something bad is going to happen. Just keep that in mind. You see why I wanted to get you super excited at the beginning of my presentation? Because the rest of this is bringing us back down to earth. Water safety. So I grew up in Missouri. I went to college in Indiana, and now I live in Arizona. I've been swimming in the ocean like 3 times. I have no idea what a rip current looks like. Do you? You are going somewhere and you're near the coast. Awesome. You live in Arizona now. Take advantage of that. Go to the beach. Go swimming. But recognize there is inherent risk in doing so. And this isn't a problem unique to the ocean. Certainly there are other bodies of water that many of you will encounter that look super tempting, especially in the heat of the summer. You just need to be smart, right? If there are signs telling you not to swim, don't swim. If there's not a lifeguard present, don't swim. If you're on a gorgeous beach on a beautiful sunny day, clear blue skies, and nobody on the beach is in the water, pay attention to that, figure out why that is. Probably there's a rip current that day, or there's some school of jellyfish, or I don't know, there's probably some reason that all these people are not in the water on this sweltering hot day. So pay attention to that, please. This is a link to a news story. This was a University of North Carolina student who drowned. An ASU student has drowned on a study abroad program in a rip current. So this is a risk. Again, underlying theme, be smart. Feel compelled after just saying that. That doesn't mean that these students who drowned were not smart. Perhaps they didn't pay attention to the signs. Perhaps they didn't recognize the danger. They didn't die because they were not smart. My point is, be mindful of your surroundings. Okay. Appropriate behaviors, I did talk a little bit about this already, so we can move fairly quickly here. Whether you like it or not, chances are you will be so obviously American to everyone around you that you stand out like these people stand out. The clothes that you wear, the way that you walk, jewelry that you might wear, the volume of your voice when you're talking to each other, your hand gestures, you will stick out. So how can you minimize the extent to which you stick out? You probably don't want to stick out in case somebody wants to do you harm, or because you want to be respectful of the culture that you're living in. So how do people handle these situations in your culture? Do some research. Probably it's going to come up in your orientations with your program leaders or in your on-site orientations, and please do pay attention to that. You can find yourself in uncomfortable, if not dangerous, situations when you violate some of these cultural norms. So be aware of what they are. Case of emergency. You need to know before you get on an airplane who to call if you need help. And it may be mom and dad, depending on the situation, but more than likely, if you need help when you call mom and dad, you're going to freak out mom and dad, and from their home in Mesa or Chicago or whatever, there's maybe not much they can do to help. So who can help you? Your program leaders, your program providers, some of whom are in the room next door, your insurance provider, the study abroad office. What I do when I get an emergency phone call is I mobilize whatever resources that I need to mobilize at the university, all of which I have access to in a pinch, whatever that might be. So figure out what are the local emergency numbers, figure out who is available to you in the city where you are who can help you in a crisis, big or small. So I got a 5-minute warning, so I don't know that I'm going to have time to put it out to you all for questions. As is typical in a session like this, it's often parents who have more questions for me than children. Students. Adults. I called you adults earlier. I'll stay true to that. So I will be in here for the parents section after this, and I will be around. So if you do have questions, please come and talk to me. Before we send you on your way, though, we have a couple of announcements. My contact info is on here. You'll get this, so if you do need to follow up with me, you can. But we have a couple of announcements, and I'm going to ask my colleague Carrie Herrera-Neeson, who's our communications and marketing specialist, to share some of these with you. She'll be the last speaker for this session, and then we will dismiss you for the next round. Okay? Thank you all. Hold on. Are you still excited about going abroad, despite all of that stuff that I just shared with you? Really? Mom is excited. Yeah.